Good morning, America. In today's video, we're going to talk about a resolution that was just passed by the House to overturn President Trump's emergency declaration on the border wall. A vote was taken. The vote was 245 in favor of the resolution, disapproving the emergency declaration, versus 182 who voted against the resolution. It should be noted that 13 Republicans voted with the Democrats. So the 245 does include 13 Republicans who also voted in favor of the resolution to basically disapprove the emergency declaration and with it the appropriation of the additional funds for the creation of the border wall along the southern borders of the United States. So the next steps for the resolution will be that now that it's passed the House, it will head to the Senate for a vote. Now, in the Senate, the Republicans do hold the majority, but it's very unclear at this time how many Republicans will actually vote for the measure. And there's a couple of issues with this, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. But, some have said that this is basically going to put Republican unity to the test. Now, Republican unity, the idea that the Republicans, vote together, they, vote for the party, and President Trump is supposed to be the leader, if not one of the main leaders of the party, although as time has gone on through the administration, that's not always been the case. And many Republicans have said that some of his views are not necessarily the views of the entire party, or his opinions don't necessarily represent the entire party. But this vote will put that idea of Republican unity to the test. And earlier this week, President Trump made statements basically urging all Republican, senators to, maintain unity and vote with the Republican Party in favor of the emergency declaration and the appropriation of the additional funds for the construction of the border wall. As you'll remember, during the government shutdown, President Trump was looking for about $5.7 billion for construction of the wall, which ultimately he didn't get. When the final agreements were passed to end the shutdown, the number was much closer to less than $2 billion. But at that time, President Trump did say, and eventually he did, declare a quote-unquote national emergency along the southern borders, which would allow him to appropriate the money. And in essence, what he's doing is going around Congress. And that's really the juxt of the whole issue here is, can a president, and again, we'll talk about this in a couple minutes, but can a president actually go around Congress to make policy? The whole point behind having the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the presidency is that it's supposed to have power distributed throughout all parties so that there's checks and balances. That's what the whole United States government system is built upon: checks and balances, checks and balances. So that's really the question, I think, that is perplexing to a lot of Republicans, is they're sort of stuck in this difficult situation where they want to be good party members. They want to vote with the party, hold the party lines, but at the same time, as senators and as, congressional members and as, members of the House, they're part of this system where there is checks and balances, and this emergency declaration basically sort of goes around that and undoes everything. So, and there's some fear, as we'll talk about in a few moments, that this is really setting a dangerous precedent, not only for this presidency, but for future presidencies. And I think, Republicans with a sort of long-term view see that this sets a dangerous precedent not only for future Republican administrations, but also for Democratic administrations, because, now with the Republicans, in charge and holding the presidency, it's one thing, but, in 2020, with 2020 coming, if they fail to, retain the presidency, then you'll have a Democratic president and a Democratic, administration, which has this precedent on the books of, well, if we don't get what we want from Senate, where the Republicans hold the majority, we can just declare an emergency and go around them. So I think that, certain Republican senators with sort of a long-term view are very fearful of this. And this is something that I think that they're going to be, really talking about behind closed doors to try and say, hey, we better really think about this, because, this is not just about today, it's about what's going to happen in the future. If we, allow this emergency declaration to pass when we've already said no to the additional funds for the border wall, what is this going to mean, moving forward? Now, it's interesting that, while the Republicans hold a majority of the Senate, only 4 Republicans basically need to vote with the Democrats for the resolution to overturn the emergency declaration to pass. So that's a very small number, and it looks very much likely to pass the Senate. It seems that, when this resolution does come up for vote, it most probably will pass. Some of the Republican senators have basically come out and said that they probably would support it. They don't support the emergency declaration. It's not that they don't support the president. They do support the president, but they just don't support the emergency declaration. They feel that, we need to stick with the original agreement, which ended the government shutdown, which was the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. So, they want to keep the government open for business, but at the same time, they want to, be cautious with this emergency declaration. So the resolution looks very likely to pass the Senate. If it does come up for a vote, it does look very likely to pass a Senate. And, that's a bit of a blow to President Trump, but again, not necessarily something that he doesn't expect. If Senate does pass the resolution, it would head back to the president, and President Trump has already said that he will absolutely veto the resolution if it comes back to him. He's holding his ground. He does feel that there's an emergency. He does feel that this qualifies as an emergency. And he's going to hold his ground on this issue. And, he will veto any resolution that comes to him. Now, that's his statements. Again, sometimes, things change. Just as with the shutdown in the government, eventually, President Trump had said, I'm not going to back down until I get the money that I want for the wall. I'm not going to back down. I'm not going to open up the government. But eventually pressure built upon him, and he did yield, and, the government shutdown did end. So sometimes things will change, but I think that that's highly unlikely, and most people around the president and watching the president also feel that's highly unlikely. So it's almost certain that if the resolution does go back to the president, he will almost certainly veto the resolution. So that brings us around to what would happen then. So if the president vetoes it, which he has said that he would, it would actually come back to Congress. And then what would happen is that Congress would need an overwhelming majority to pass the resolution in both houses, in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. So basically they need 2/3 of all members in both cabinets in both the House and the Senate to overrule the presidential veto. And while there are enough votes to pass the resolution in both the House and the Senate, it's unlikely that the resolution could get the 2/3. So if this is actually how the resolution plays out, where it goes to Senate, it gets passed by the Senate, it goes to the President, it gets vetoed by the President, it would most probably come back to Congress, where it would most probably not pass. So, we'll just have to see how it plays out. Like I said, really one of the big keys will be whether or not the President vetoes it. He has said publicly he's going to veto it. He's standing his ground, standing firm. He's not happy that he had to sort of yield a little bit in the government shutdown, but he made that compromise to get the government going again, which was the right thing to do, and what I think he needed to do. But he has said he's going to hold his ground, and if he does, it's unlikely that the resolution can survive a presidential veto. So, as I said before, the real question really comes down to, and this is something, again, that not only obviously the Democrats have brought up, but also, many Republicans, Republican senators especially, they're kind of torn. They're on this, they're put in this very difficult situation. The question is this: can a president actually go around Congress? Can he go around them to create his or her own policies? Can he just basically say, well, you didn't give me the money, so I'm just going to declare an emergency and take the money. You didn't give me the money to build the wall, so I'm just going to go around you. I'm going to declare a national emergency, and I'm going to take the money. That's the question. Can he actually do that? Can he basically go around the Congress, go around the Senate, go around, the House? Some people say actually do an end around the Constitution. The whole point behind our government system is the checks and balances. And this basically sets a really dangerous precedent, because this is someone who's said, you know what, I'm just going to go around all that. I can just I have the power to declare a national emergency. And I feel that we need to take these funds and build this wall. And, I'm not getting the support I want in the House. I'm not getting the support I want in the Senate. So I'll just go around them. The question is, and several Republican senators have basically come out and said this, is that this is setting a dangerous precedent, not just for this presidency, but you have to look towards the future. Because, like I said, right now, the Senate is controlled by the Republicans. However, and right now the president is Republican. But, 2020 is just right around the corner. And even if, they're successful in, garnering re-election in 2020, at some point it's likely that a Democratic presidency and a Democratic administration will take hold, and then you have this precedent on the books where if they don't get what they want from the Republican-held Senate, they'll just go around them. They'll declare a national emergency and go right around them. So it's sort of it's something where I think we have to hit the pause button for a second and really look at this, because again, coming back to this whole idea of checks and balances, it's, it's not a monarchy. It's not the president rules everything. It's that, there's Congress, there's the House, there's the Senate, and you have to, if you want to make policies and pass laws, you have to, go through them and have their approval and have their, agreement that this is what's good for the country. You can't have too much power in one person's hands. And that's really what's dangerous about this, is that, if the president can go around Congress to create their own policies, then, that's just a shocking amount of power in one person's hands, and it really is, I agree, a dangerous precedent. Now, if there's a national emergency, yes, there's a national emergency. But if there's truly a national emergency, you would think that the Congress, that the Senate, that the House would be in agreement that there is a national emergency. So, if this resolution says that, no, it's not true, then that's a problem, because, we need to really think about this. you know, if there's not a national emergency, then you're just basically using that to go around Congress. So, you know, it's interesting how this will play out in the coming weeks. You know, we'll just have to sort of, like I said, wait and see. A lot of pieces, a lot of things need to happen, you know, as we go down the path here. You know, it's got to go to Senate. It's got to go back to the president, then it's got to come back to the Congress. So a lot of steps before, you know, we see this play out. But it'll just be very interesting to see, you know, short term and also what this means for the long term. So that's going to be it for this video. Like I said, please, I would love to hear what you guys think about this. Please comment below, like and share the video. And of course, if you like this content, please subscribe for future videos. Everybody have a great day.